Adults, what's something your parents did right raising you? Story 1. They instilled a good work ethic. If you do something half-assed, you'll have to put two asses in to fix your F-ups. If your name is going on it, make it your best. They also always encouraged my creativity. Never told me I wasn't capable of something. They always told me I can accomplish anything I want as long as I put effort into it. My parental units are awesome. Story 2. Supported my then unusual interests. I was into astronomy as a younger kid and they bought books and telescopes and drove me to from the local astronomy club at late hours. Later, this was the 80s, they bought me a series of computers which were pretty expensive for the time and for their income. I'm grateful they supported what I was into. Story 3. They treated me like an adult, never belittled what I was feeling or what was meaningful to me, and explained practicalities of life when need be, because I said so was not a common phrase. Also, they were the most supportive parents anyone could ask for, and they had the time to get involved with the things I did. My dad taught me scientific wonder and mentored my robotics team. My mom volunteered for all my theater and music stuff while simultaneously serving on school boards, PTOs, Friends of Music, curriculum committees, and about 100 other things. They are just incredible people. Story 4. My dad always made my brother and I take the lead. He would obviously always know what was going on and would be a few steps ahead of us. If we were in a new city, we would be in charge of working out which bus to take, or if we were cooking, would be reading the recipe and telling my dad what to do, etc. It's pretty simple, but it meant we were pretty good at doing things ourselves and were already really independent before leaving home. We were visiting London once and I managed to get on the tube before the doors closed. But my dad did not. I knew where we had to change, so just got off at the stop and waited for the next train with him on. I think most 8-year-olds might have freaked out a bit. Story 5. My mom always made me try a bite of any food in front of her before she'd allow the "I don't like it" line. Now, thanks to her, I'm willing to try any food drink once. Even if I think I won't like it, I'm glad she did that. Story 6. Read me bedtime stories every night as I was growing up. It instilled in me a love of reading, and I am certain it contributed to helping my brain work more betterer than people what doesn't read good. Story 7. 1. My dad treated my mom right. 2. I had chores. 3. Typically, they considered real-life consequences to mistakes adequate teaching and didn't tack on arbitrary punishments. It was like the opposite of rinse and eprinse. Story 8. They made drugs and alcohol seem like they weren't a big deal. They offered wine with dinner, and they held their promises when they said they'd pick me up from a party, no questions asked. They made it seem like it wasn't a forbidden fruit, so I never had the urge to abuse it or sneak around. Eve never had a problem with it thanks to them. I have healthy boundaries. Story 9. Controversial one, but as a kid, but don't start any physical violence, but if someone punches you, punch them back. I seem to be targeted for bullying and violence in school, and this helped. As soon as someone knows you will fight back, 9/10 will give up. Definitely different as an adult though. As an adult, I'd rather just avoid any physical violence entirely, because the chances are, if they are getting into physical violence, they probably don't have a lot to lose and you don't want to get stabbed or something. Story 10. Something that has stayed with me forever was when my dad gave me an article from Time magazine that explained in layman's terms how our brains don't stop growing until we're in our early 20s, and one of the last parts of the brain to form is our ability to fully comprehend the consequences of our actions. We think we can, but we can't fully understand the magnitude of our decisions until later in life. I was about 15 when he gave me that article. He went on to explain that his job as a parent was to sort of fill in that gap by making decisions for me that will decrease my chances of making a bad decision. Basic stuff like curfews, picking me up from things instead of letting friends who might have been drinking drive me home. The most important takeaway was that he wanted me to know he 100% trusted me, but there was a limit to that trust because even if I thought I was making good decisions, I didn't have all the tools yet to make the best ones. I appreciate that. Looking back on some of the dumb stuff I still managed to get away with at that age, stuff I would never do now, it was nice having a parent explain why he wanted to control some aspects of my life besides just saying because I said so. Story 11. They sat us down with them when they paid the bills every month. We started out thinking we had a ton of money, let's buy X, then watching as the paycheck money dwindled as bills were paid. We'd inevitably finish paying bills and think we still had a lot. Then Dad would say, "You want to eat this month, don't you?" and put aside money for groceries. It was so useful because we learned how much things actually cost, how to put money away for items you couldn't yet buy like groceries, and how to save for specific things like retirement and a new roof for the house. It also got us to stop asking for money since we saw that there wasn't much left over. Story 12. I have autism, which caused a lot of issues. A psychiatrist had me diagnosed and my parents made sure I had the support I needed. It's easy to say someone is a difficult child, but figuring out why and helping that child find a path in life that works for them is the best thing they could ever have done for me. Story 13. My mom taught me and my brothers to take care of ourselves domestically by time we were 16. At that point we were essentially tenants, responsible for our own needs and expected to contribute to the household. My dad gave us a strong impression of what would be expected of us in the workplace and instilled a sense of pragmatism that lasts a lifetime. You only have a few years to prepare your children for the world. It's basic training before they enter the battlefield. You want them to survive, to succeed. I'm a parent myself now, I understand. Story 14. Teaching the importance of fiscal value, as in understanding how much money you have and being mindful of how you spend, save, borrow, etc. It's done wonders for my credit score growing up and has so far managed to keep me from getting into financial trouble. Story 15. Father taught me in the early aughts when I was 16 to 20 or so how to use computers, so I wouldn't be one of those people later in life going, what's a computer one? One godfather taught me not to spend money foolishly, but don't be afraid to spend it. You can't take it with you when you're gone. Mother nothing, she was a useless. Story 16. Talked treated me like an adult. No curfew, no restriction of when I can use my phone or play video games or use the internet, no dedicated time for studying or revision, nothing like that, but if you don't get good results on your exams, that's your fault, and you have to deal with the consequences. Story 17. My parents accept everyone as they are. Didn't matter what color your skin is, gay, straight or something in between, didn't matter. My parents loved and accepted all of my sister and my friends. Let some of them live with us when things got bad at home. Now we are all grown up and having children. All those kids are calling my mom and dad grandma and grandpa. See, love does win. Story 18. Taught me to be independent at a young age. I will never do for you the things you can do yourself. That was my dad's motto. Even if I struggled with things, my dad would wait patiently and encourage me to keep going. Story 19. Good manners. Just basic stuff like please, thank you, you're welcome, etc. As an adult, I'm honestly shocked by how frequently I see other adults that have terrible manners. Give me this, he'll take that, I want that, or after a waiter drops off a check and tells them to have a nice day they reply with yeah or sure. I straight up judge other adults on this stuff. Get your life together and stop interacting with people like a knuckle-dragging Neanderthal. Story 20. My dad taught me to think for myself and not follow anyone's words mindlessly. It has backfired on him when I didn't listen to him though XD. Still thank you for doing such a good job, Dad. I love you. Story 21. Perhaps the most important thing my parents did for me was stimulating my imagination. And not only that, they were more than happy for a while, anyway, to hear about the bizarre concepts that I came up with, or about I had special dreams. My mother finally pushed me to start recording my conversations, which was probably a good call for all participants. Story 22. They created an environment in our house that encouraged academics and learning and hard work. They read to me every day when I was a kid. My mom always had a book on hand to read and started taking me on her weekly trips to the library. My dad was at work before I woke up every morning. No matter how beat up or run down he was feeling, he was a carpenter. Manual labor sucks as a career. Y'all, my brother and sisters are a lot older than me, so I also had a lot of positive role models as far as schoolwork too. It never occurred to me to not try hard in school and do my homework. That just wasn't how it was done. So very early my family ingrained a lot of positive habits into my behavior, and it has helped me get good grades which prepared me for a good career, etc. Story 23. My mother made sure I ate healthy. I was a super picky eater with an insatiable sweet tooth thanks to my late grandmother, and really only wanted to eat McDonald's Happy Meals, Cocoa Krispies, peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, and butterscotch pudding. I grew up on all natural peanut butter and jam instead of Skippy and jelly. My mom would fry up a burger and fries for me and make me a Happy Meal at home. I had Ovaltine in my chocolate milk instead of Nesquik. My mom would pound out a chicken breast, cut it, bread it, and bake it for me so I had chicken fingers that didn't come from a bag. She gave me so much fruit because I wouldn't eat vegetables. I love my mom. Story 24. Made sure I understood the value of empathy and just listening. Dad was a recruiter for the army, and recruits would reach back out to him because he would help them get their school life in order, help get home life in order if they needed it, and refuse to lie to them about the entire process. He'd drive out of his way to take them to the gym to help them get into shape and would say if they needed anything to call. He complained about it, but I could see he was just happy to help people around him. My mom was literally everyone's mom. I had a lot of friends whose parents worked a lot of hours, didn't listen to their teens, or just didn't care what was going on in their lives. My house more or less had an open door policy, and I would come home so often to see me or my sister's friends just chilling with my mom. They just wanted a mom to listen to them and give them advice, and that's what she did. Always honest and always truthful. I have a few non-blood related sisters who my mom took in for a time, and they always say Happy Mother's Day to her. My sister and I took their lessons to heart. My sis is a school psych. I'm trying to become a teacher. We try and be sympathetic and listen to the people around us. Story 25 taught me to say yes sir, yes ma'am, no sir and no ma'am. These simple statements make me stand out from so many others that do not speak this way. I have received warning tickets for speeding because of this. Also, FYI, if pulled over at night, turn on your interior light. Police really like being able to see into the vehicle at night and can help put them at ease, hopefully resulting in a reduced or warning ticket. Story 26. My mother was against baby talk and spoke to us like adults from a young age. Through imitation we became well-spoken children and are currently well-spoken adults. She also insisted we play a sport, play an instrument, and were strong swimmers. It really helped balance me and keep me busy as a kid. Story 27. Talking about death. My dad taught me that cats and other animals that are not inside or fully domesticated animals will go into the woods to die. He also took me to funerals at a young age. He didn't sugarcoat it, just explained what death was and the afterlife of heaven, and he also explained how we take care of the bodies of humans and other animals very matter of fact. He also explained how to treat them with honor. It really helped me cope with the deaths of orphan kittens when I worked feeding them in an animal rescue. Side note, he also taught me how interesting old southern cemeteries can be. You can find the year that mad cow disease affected the communities, or other diseases based on the multiple number of graves that have the same ending year as well as the ages of the people when they died. Now I'm an archaeologist. So go Dad. Story 28. Volunteering from a young age. I didn't have a job until 18. My mom said getting a good education was my job, but I volunteered weekly from the age of 10. In Ontario you have to volunteer 40 hours throughout high school, and I had logged nearly 400 hours over those 4 years, and I didn't even submit them all. I have a lot of pride in the work I do as a result, and can't understand when people do a half-assed job. It's definitely something I'm going to do with my own kids. Story 29. My parents never told me I was smart. My mom wryly observed that actually smart people should be smart enough to figure it out at some point anyway. We gals were also never told we were pretty. Instead, the conversation was always around working hard, being kind to others, and all the things a kid can actually work on. And Lord knows I was a bright but lazy kid who needed to not fall into that trap. Story 30. Family dinner every night when Dad got home. No TV and obviously no phones because it was 40 years ago. We talked about our day and laughed about stuff. Good times and very important part of my childhood. Story 31. My parents really encouraged me to have jobs in high school, and am grateful for it. I had some friends who weren't allowed to have a job BC it would distract them from school, and I always thought that was a little naive of the parents. Story 32. Independence. No helicopter parenting here, just had certain expectations of me and allowed me the freedom to meet them without coddling. Follow-up. Integrity. We do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. Don't pay attention to what so-and-so is doing. Focus on yourself and your own conscience. Story 33. They taught me not to up my life with drugs and how not to treat my children. Makes me a better parent for going through such a shitty upbringing. Thanks, donor and incubator. Story 34. My dad would always look me dead in the eye and point to his head when I was messing up. It was a simple gesture, but the meaning was all too clear. Stop, take a breath and think. You'd be surprised how many things can be solved with that simple technique. Story 35. My grandparent basically raised me for a good majority of my life, and I consider them a parent. They always instilled in me to never be lazy, always stick to your word, and never take from anyone. If you have nothing to apologize for, don't apologize just because it might make things better. You don't have to prove anything to anyone just so that they may see your value because you innately have value already, and if they can't already see that, that's a person you don't want in your life anyways. You have a voice that deserves to be listened to, and to never let anyone try to shut you up. Your life is a novel, and if a character's only purpose is to be the antagonist, the protagonist, and cut them out, and don't you be feeling guilty for it. My grandparent is literally the most fearless person I know. They actually genuinely live by all these things that they instilled in me. My biological parent was emotionally abusive and tried to instill in me the exact opposite of these things. But my grandparent refused to let that happen. They mean more to me than they'll ever know, and I hope one day I can make them proud. Edit. Actually, scratch that last part, because my grandparent also always emphasized that I should never live my life with the sole purpose of trying to please others, because the only person you should be aiming to please in the end is yourself. Story 36. Religion. When I was about 6 I didn't want to go to church anymore because I didn't believe those crazy unlikely stories in the Bible. Even though they are religious, they just let me be, as they thought it to be better to gain my believe myself, even if later in my life. Now I'm happy I was not indoctrinated and am still an atheist. Even if I'm wrong, I agree with my parents that it would be better to find out myself than have it forced upon me. Story 37. I had a lot of freedom but only in return of informations about my life, e.g., I was allowed to stay out longer if my mom knew with whom I would be out, and I could stay out even longer if the person brought me home. I never really got a punishment for bad grades because my mom said it's my future degree that I ruin, and not hers, so it's in my hands to get better at school. Even though my brothers and I had a lot of stuff like consoles, toys, anything I wouldn't consider us spoiled in any way. In fact, my mom taught me pretty well how to handle my money and what to look for when shopping. I never needed to be afraid of her in any way, and I really appreciate it. Story 38. Travel, family vacations, and not to the same places year in, year out, but to all kinds of different events, festivals. Even marched with my mom at a union rally, going with them to volunteer with the poor in Appalachia or visiting the posh of Manhattan. That, more than anything, showed me that there was just so much more to life. As a young girl, they never forced me into being a girl's girl, but they made sure I knew proper manners, charm school, so I could fit in wherever I decided to land. Story 39. They taught me tolerance and acceptance. They told me they would love me no matter my religion, orientation, political alliance, or profession. They taught me to accept people and love them for their character, and to find people who will love me for my character. Story 40. I'm a female with a single father. He has never expected anything of me, did everything to give me what I needed and wanted, but most importantly he taught me how to do basic things that a man should do, such as change my car's oil, or the tire, and overall mechanics. My father has also accepted anything and everything I could have gone through phase-wise. Dye my blonde hair red, great, thick makeup, cool, wanting to drink, tell me where, when, with who, and keep your phone on if you need a ride. Of course this is after I was at least 15, 16. Most important, I was able to talk to my dad about absolutely anything without fear of anger, judgment, or anything of the sort. I can proudly say I hardly drink, never smoke, moved out when I was ready, and am living a great life. I still have a close relationship with my father, and he is still my hero. Story 41. They pushed me into basketball and sports in general. Even though I wanted to quit every other weekend, I was pretty fat as a kid and I naturally didn't like it at all at first, but it ended up being great for me, both for health reasons and for socializing. The latter was also very important, because I had no long-lasting friends since my parents moved every year and I always had to change schools. Story 42. My parents divorced when I was pretty young, 3 years oldish. My parents made a huge effort to get along while my brother and I grew up. My dad's parents had a messy divorce and it really messed with him and he didn't really have a relationship with his father, so he knew that it was so important for me and my brother to be not affected by my parents' issues. I literally didn't know my parents heavily disliked each other until I was around 15. My brother and I have great relationships with both our parents and I feel like we ended up a lot better off than other people I know with divorced parents. We saw each parent 50 of the time until we were in high school. Story 43. Homeschooling me and my siblings. We all have learning disabilities and I've learned from becoming a teacher in the same area as an adult that there's no way any of us would have done well. There's still not enough help, individualized care, and I'm 20 now. 15 years ago it likely would have been a lot worse. Story 44. Giving me boundaries. Things I could and couldn't do. Giving a child clear boundaries is essential for their well-being and development. If you let your child do whatever they want, that is not parenting. Story 45. I had a hard home life growing up, but I was able to glean some things from my parents that nonetheless helped me out as an adult. Main things is that if you're going to do something, don't half it, you're going to end up taking 2 or 3 times as long fixing it up than if you had just done it right the first time. Second is that just because you fail at something once, doesn't mean you quit doing that thing, you learn from the mistake. Third is to stand up for those who are not in a position to stand up for themselves. Fourth, this was more by accident, is that my parents had diametrically opposite views on politics. My mom is a New Deal kind of Democrat, my dad was a libertarian, now a near full-on Trump supporter, but still attests to hating all politics, despite giving full-throated arguments and defenses of Trump's political views. Whenever politics did get brought up, there were back and forths, sometimes not healthy. But I ended up becoming a Marxist, in part because we became embroiled in politics. I started having views of my own and I had to make sure my arguments stood up to scrutiny. Also by accident, they kind of were hands-off mostly because they weren't present, but this allowed me to make mistakes and experience the consequences of those mistakes, rather than having not made them at all. Self-sufficiency was a huge thing. We were poor, so our electricity would get cut off. We had to find ways to get hot water, feed ourselves and whatnot. Gardening, firemaking, non-electrical storage, all that you'd learn at a survival camp, was a good bit of my life growing up. I guess this is all basic, but would have never learned it if I had stricter helicopter parents, I'd bet. Story 46. To stop doing SMTH and take a break when it's not good for your health. I had a rough childhood. My dad left us and mom was too sick to work whenever I felt down and couldn't take it anymore. I just skipped the day of school and would do SMTH with my mom. Even when my grandpa died I was home for 2 weeks. I will always remember that and teach my kids the same. Story 47. We didn't have TV growing up. We also went to the library once a week. Because of it I developed an insatiable love of books and reading. For this I will be forever grateful. Story 48. I had to pay for almost everything growing up while almost all my friends had their parents buy them stuff, first car, college, etc. I was pretty annoyed by it at the time because it was possible for my parents to do it also, but I really appreciate it now. When I got married my father-in-law, who was a pretty rough guy, said I like you because you don't act entitled like all those other kids. So many people now get everything handed to them by their parents and look at me like mine were abusive because they didn't give me $20,000 a year to go to college. Older folks always say our generation is entitled, and I do kind of see it for a lot of people. Story 49. The importance of standing up for yourself, the importance of basic courtesy and manners, and above all, even though you may argue, fight, that we're all still family and we stick together, ETA, and if you have the ability to be charitable, if you can't afford then certainly with effort. Story 50. To be humble and independent. My siblings and I are the only kids in the family that aren't always asking for things or expecting them, and we mostly try to handle our stuff on our own, all the while knowing my parents have our backs if needed. Story 51. Manners and simple courtesy. Always say please and thank you. Look people in the eye and listen to what they say. Treat each and every person as a human being. It makes you really stand out in life. Story 52. Didn't bend when I whined and didn't cave to whatever ID said or wanted, but they'd always listen to me, and when ID brought up legitimate concern or whatever it was, we'd talk about it and work at it like regular people. My voice was heard as an equal, although inexperienced in life. This more than anything allowed me to grow into the person I am now. I gained more and more credibility and critical thinking skills as I got older, mainly because of the way I was able to participate in family personal choices at a young age. Story 53. I'm very unsure if this is right or not, but I was taught from a very young age not to care what others think or say about me. However, this has led me and the rest of my family to be very insensitive and even callous at times. On the plus side though, I could give 2 shits what anyone says or thinks about me. Story 54. They were always open and never punished for telling them anything. I can have an open conversation about pretty much anything, and it has opened me to act the same to people around me. I see so many people hiding huge parts of who they are and what they do from their parents, because they are used to being punished for telling, and it's really damaging. If I get kids, I want them to tell me when they have their first joint, if they have questions about their sexuality, if they struggle with their behavior or other things that I've seen parents react badly to. Story 55. I know this will be buried deep in various comments, but well, I grew up in a not-so-good financially family, never starved but didn't have any luxuries too. I remember deep in my childhood that my folks always took the change from anything they bought and put inside a piggy bank, all year long. They made sure that I saw them putting the coins there and kept making me hype about Christmas, because the one who will choose the present was me. I remember going to bank to change the mountain of coins into paper. Looking back, for me it was a lot. But seriously, it wasn't much, and go to the local toy store to buy something for me. My mother even made sure that we packed it to put on the tree and said that would be more fun to open it with the other children. The family Christmas party always happened on a house of one of our rich relatives, not direct relative. My mother was raised by another family, and the other children always got some insane presents. But none of them had the same impact mine had, at least for me. The things is, my folks thought me, even if they didn't have the intention at that time, that if I saved regularly I will get the things I want, and that the value of something is not bounded for what is priced. This concept alone make me treat money with care, make me do savings regularly, make me plan ahead for almost anything, and make me put value in things that doesn't even have a price. My God, looking back, I kept a bottle cap in my wallet for years because it had friendship value. Love you, Mom and Dad. This kept deep imprinted in me, thanks. Story 56. My parents always taught me to be affectionate, kinda weird, but my dad always told me that even though you're a guy, don't be like the regular guy that acts all tough and contain everything in. You'll be okay if you cry, if you hug, and if you express your love for your buds. Don't be afraid to express your affection, especially to those who care for you. Story 57. My mom forced us to do our own laundry as kids, not an ethical or moral thing, but dang was it nice not struggling with the washer in my college dorm. Story 58. Pretend any given action is on the front page of the newspaper roll. Do you want your mom reading that? That advice has got me out of a lot of situations I put myself in. Story 59. I come from a family that believes independence is a key trait, so my dad and mom, mostly my dad, pushed me to put a career before a relationship so that I wouldn't have to rely on a man to make a living. The reason for this is because one of his family members got into a very abusive relationship, but she couldn't leave him because she was afraid she couldn't make it on her own. The guy was an absolute drunk and beat on her whenever he was drinking. Story 60 taught me what good work ethic is. My parents work extremely hard. They each own a business and they practically never stop working, and in turn they are both successful. I kinda hustled my way into a job where I had zero experience in what they were doing. Within the first month I was there, they gave me a $5 raise and put me on salary just because they said I was willing to learn whatever they threw at me, and I worked hard. I am proud of that. I've been there 5 months now, and they gave me TV last week as a gift for being, in their own words, awesome. Oh, good work ethic pays off. My parents might not have done everything perfectly right, but noon is perfect. What matters is the intention behind it, and I know for sure that my parents did their very best, and that's the only thing that matters to me. Story 61. They respected our privacy, always knocked on our doors, never went through our computer history or looked at our phones, etc. They would ask us who we were talking to, but if they really wanted to see the messages, they would ask us to show them. They showed that they cared, but they also trusted us to make the right decisions. Now, I can go and talk to my parents about anything. Our relationship is great. I'm so thankful. Story 62 had me out carrots out for the reindeer each Christmas to bit them in half while I was sleeping to make it look like Santa was really there. They helped keep the child in me alive and strong so he may be a part of me in my adult life. Story 63. Alcohol was never a forbidden taboo. They would allow and encourage me to try alcohol in the safety of our home, so it was never some forbidden fruit thing, and I've never really abused it. Now that I'm of age, I still haven't ever been drunk enough to vomit. Story 64. 1. Work ethic. I've had a job since I was 14 and was taught to do every job to the best of my ability. It was so aggravating as a teenager seeing adults at my fast food job slacking off and doing the bare minimum too. This is very USA oriented. But the importance of carrying health insurance. I randomly fell down the stairs at age 25-ish. Pre-insurance costs were $25,000 after ER visits, surgery, and post-op visits. I paid about $30 out of pocket. Story 65 taught me about safe drug use rather than completely condemning them. Kept me away from meth because I knew I could trust their judgment. Wish I'd listened about alcohol though. Story 66. My dad always said always be aware of your surroundings. He made a game out of it with me too. If we were doing random stuff like going to Home Depot or something, and when we got back in the car he'd ask me what was the name of the cashier or what color shirt was the guy who cut the plywood wearing. As I got into my early teens, he started to teach me how to listen to conversations in a room of talking people. My dad was always very quiet, but he was well respected by people. I think one of the most valuable things he taught me was remember birthdays of everyone. There have been times when I would say happy birthday to people and they would have the biggest smile on their face. Someone remembered. Story 67. Honestly, they fought hard to have me pulled from speech and remedial math. At age 8 I was already an introvert, but since I wasn't normal the teachers kept trying to shove me into those classes, but my parents knew differently. It wasn't until a teacher handed me Harry Potter did I flourish and was given permission to be pulled. Story 68. They taught me to never cheat, ever, to the point where it kind of just disgusts me when I see 60 of all the other high schoolers cheating at any game we happen to be playing. Story 69. They introduced me to responsible drinking at an early age. At 13 or 14 they started to offer me wine at special event dinners, Christmas etc. Or when we were out for dinner. This was the 70s and the rules were pretty relaxed at restaurants. At 16 or so my dad started offering to split a beer with me in the summer. So when I turned 19 it was like booze. Man, I can get that any time. I don't know if that was their plan but it worked. My wife and I did that with our daughter before she turned 19 and it's pretty much worked out the same way. Totally removes the forbidden fruit feeling. Story 70. My mom taught me household chores and the best way to go about doing them: cooking, cleaning, etc. It amazed me that none of my college friends knew how to get a stain out of carpet. Story 71. Work smarter, not harder. To appreciate other cultures we all have wanderlust now. Quality time doesn't have to be expensive, but some luxury things are worth it. Don't spend money you have yet to earn. Leave the cat alone when it's asleep. They taught us responsibility and consequences, and definitely that saying no is always a possibility. And most importantly, they made sure we knew we can always count on them in need. Making mistakes does not diminish the love they have for us, because they know we will take on the responsibility for them.